The rain had been falling over London for hours. Streetlights reflected on the wet pavement, and people hurried past with umbrellas, eager to escape the cold evening. Among them walked an old man named Mike. His hair had turned gray long ago, and age had slowed his steps, but there was still a quiet strength in his eyes. He had lived a long life, built a respectable career, and survived hardships that most people could never imagine. Yet there was one memory he had never escaped, one name that had never left his heart: Sarah. For 40 years, he had carried that name in silence. Some wounds heal. Others simply become part of who you are. Mike had learned to live with the pain, but he had never forgotten the woman who once meant everything to him. As he walked along a familiar London street that evening, he had no idea that fate was about to bring his past back to life. Then he saw her. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. Across the street, walking slowly while holding the hand of a young child, was an elderly woman. Her face had changed with time, but there was no mistaking her. His heart skipped a beat. Sarah, after all these years, she was standing right there. Suddenly, the sound of traffic faded away. The people around him disappeared. It felt as if the entire world had stopped moving. He stood frozen, staring at the woman he had once loved more than anything. The woman who had shattered his heart with a single message and vanished from his life forever. 40 years earlier, Mike had been a completely different man. Young, ambitious, and hopelessly in love. He first met Sarah during a rainy afternoon in central London. She was sitting alone in a small cafe near the River Thames, reading a book while waiting for the storm outside to pass. Mike had walked in drenched from the rain and accidentally knocked over a chair while looking for a seat. Sarah laughed. It was a simple moment, but it changed both of their lives. One conversation turned into another, then another. Soon they were spending every free moment together. They walked through London's parks, shared dreams about the future, and discovered that they understood each other in ways nobody else ever could. With Sarah, Mike felt complete. She wasn't just a woman he loved. She was his best friend. Sarah came from a family that valued tradition above all else. Her parents had very specific expectations for her future. They wanted her to marry someone they approved of, someone who would strengthen the family's social standing and reputation. Mike was not that person. At first, Sarah tried to keep their relationship hidden, hoping her family would eventually accept him. But secrets rarely stay hidden forever. When her parents discovered the truth, everything changed. Arguments became a daily occurrence. Sarah fought desperately for the man she loved. She pleaded with her parents. She cried. She begged them to understand. But every attempt failed. Her family refused to change their minds. Then came the day that destroyed everything. Sarah's parents arranged her marriage to another man, someone she barely knew, someone she did not love. The pressure placed upon her was enormous. She felt trapped between the family she had known her entire life and the man who held her heart. Mike believed they could fight through it together. He believed love would find a way. But he underestimated the power of fear, obligation, and family pressure. One evening, his phone vibrated. He smiled when he saw Sarah's name appear on the screen. He expected one of her usual messages. Instead, he received a text that would haunt him for decades. "I can't do this anymore. I am marrying someone else. I am no longer with you. Goodbye." That was all. No explanation. No phone call. No meeting. No chance to change her mind. Just goodbye. Mike read the message again and again, unable to believe what he was seeing. His hands trembled. His chest tightened. He immediately called her. No answer. He sent messages. Nothing. Days passed. Then weeks. Sarah disappeared completely. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. The heartbreak nearly destroyed him. He stopped caring about work. He stopped seeing friends. Many nights he sat alone in darkness, replaying every memory they had shared, wondering what he could have done differently. The pain followed him everywhere. There were moments when he thought he would never recover. Years passed slowly. The sharp agony eventually faded, but the emptiness remained. One day, Mike looked at his aging parents and realized that while he had been drowning in his grief, life had continued moving forward. People who loved him were worried about him. They needed him. He could not spend the rest of his life trapped in the past. Little by little, he rebuilt himself. He focused on his career. He took care of his family. He learned how to smile again. Outwardly, he became successful and respected. But deep inside, there was always a part of him that belonged to Sarah. Every now and then, he would pass a cafe they once visited or hear a song they used to love, and the memories would return, not with the same unbearable pain as before, but with a quiet sadness that never truly disappeared. Decades came and went. His hair turned gray. Friend grew old. 40 years of carrying her in his heart, and she didn't even remember his name. "Sarah," he whispered, "it's really me." But she simply shook her head. Then she turned around, took the child's hand, and continued walking. Mike remained standing in the rain, frozen, speechless, heartbroken all over again. He watched her disappear in the crowd, feeling the same pain he had experienced decades earlier. Yet what Mike never saw was what happened next. A short distance away, Sarah finally stopped walking. The moment she knew he could no longer see her face, her entire expression changed. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Her hands trembled. She struggled to breathe. The child looked up at her with concern, but Sarah could not speak. She simply stood there as tears rolled down her cheeks. Because the truth was that she had recognized him immediately. The moment she heard his voice, she knew exactly who he was. She had never forgotten Mike, not for a single day. The memories had stayed with her throughout her marriage, throughout her children growing up, throughout every year of her life. She still remembered the cafe where they first met. She still remembered their walks beside the Thames. She still remembered the dreams they once shared. And she remembered the text message that broke both of their hearts. But she also knew something Mike did not. Some wounds never truly heal. She saw an old man standing before her, carrying a life he had spent decades building. She saw the years reflected in his eyes, and she realized that reopening the past would only bring pain to both of them. There was nothing left to change, nothing left to fix. Their story had ended long ago, so she made one final sacrifice. Just as she had sacrificed her happiness 40 years earlier, she sacrificed her chance to speak with him now. She chose to carry the pain silently one last time. As Sarah walked away through the rain, tears streamed down her face. Behind her, Mike stood alone on the sidewalk, believing he had been forgotten. Ahead of her stretched the final years of a life filled with memories she would never share. Two people, one love, a lifetime of silence. And somewhere beneath the endless London rain, two hearts carried the same secret until the very end.